So a guy I used to work with, one of my old bosses, he would always say this phrase. He would say, if you don't know where you're going, how are you going to get there? Now, of course, it was all business related, right? He was talking about sales and how you were going to get all those sales that day. But when it comes to parenting, I think it's very similar. We tend to focus on the right now. We tend to do whatever it takes to make our kids happy. We tend to fear what we can't control. But when we parent with the end in mind, and you know where you are now, you can help your kids in a better direction. Well, welcome again to part 4 of Parenting Through the Phases. Our subject this week is talk about what matters. Eek, right? Like, who wants to have these kind of conversations? Maybe you have, maybe you haven't. Maybe your kid's grown up in high school and maybe your kid's just a 2-year-old. But either way, in any of these phases, there's conversations to be had. Now maybe you're like, oh man, it's too late, right? Like they're already in middle school, and I've already missed a couple of like crucial conversations for whatever reason. And you might be feeling like you've failed, right? Like you've missed these steps, and so you can't go back to the start, but you can still start right now having these conversations with your kids. We obviously can't control the choices our kids make or the things that are going to happen to them or around them, but we can parent with the end in mind. We can determine what we want to be true for our kids when they become an adult, and then we can help map out, or call them conversations if you want, to help move your kid closer to that destination. So as parents, we can help ourselves out by anticipating. And anticipating is looking ahead for what probably will happen and then getting ready for it. We're always anticipating, right? There are some things that we know are going to happen, like our little toddlers are going to go through potty training, or our kindergarten, first grader, they're going to lose their first tooth, or a middle schooler, if they haven't already, has asked for a cell phone over and over and over again. We can always anticipate these things. There are some things, if we stopped and think about it, if we paused about it, we'd be able to anticipate and then ready ourselves for those conversations. So why don't we? Let's prepare ourselves now by taking a look at 3 of maybe the most critical issues that you can talk about with your kids. So remember, talking about what matters. Here we go.
A few years ago, we began to work on a concept we called a life map. We apply this concept to a few critical issues when it comes to parenting, and the idea is pretty simple. To create a life map, you identify a critical issue, determine what you want to ultimately be true one day when your kid grows up and leaves your home, and then you map out steps at every phase that move your child closer to that destination. As an example, in each one of our 18 phase guides, we chose 4 critical issues that we know every parent is concerned about for their children: health, sex, technology, and faith. Then, we imagined what most parents would ultimately want to be true for their children in each of these areas. For health, we said most parents would want their kids to have healthy habits, which we define this way: learning to strengthen my body through exercise, nutrition, and self-advocacy. When it came to sex, we said most parents would say they want their kid to grow up with sexual integrity, which we define as guarding my potential for intimacy through appropriate boundaries and mutual respect. And when it comes to mobile devices, doesn't every parent want their kid to have technological responsibility? I mean, we all want our kids to know how to leverage the potential of online experiences to enhance their offline community and success. We'll talk more about faith in the next session, but for now, here's the thing that matters. If you haven't imagined the end, if you haven't ever thought about what you want to ultimately be true for your kid, then you'll always have a reactive approach to parenting. Here's another way to say that. Without a clear destination, you tend to only focus on right now. You tend to react to the moment at hand. When something comes up that you weren't expecting, maybe you find yourself searching frantically through the first Google website and holding your phone under the table while you try to have a conversation with your teenager, hoping they won't notice. Without a clear destination, you also tend to do whatever makes your kids happy. I know with younger kids, I certainly use this approach a lot. I just know that if we're on the road and the baby starts crying in her car seat and the middle child will start to whine about the crying and then the oldest will start shouting at me because I'm not making the younger kids get quiet. So I just pass them all a bag of Skittles. Another thing that happens is that without a clear destination, you tend to fear what you can't control. These are the moments when you get your children to bed and you go to your room and things are quiet. And it's the time of day right before you fall asleep, and there's this little voice in your head that begins to wonder, am I messing this up? Am I really doing what I should be doing? When you imagine the end, you begin to see things differently. When you know what you ultimately want to be true in your kid's life, it will help you stay focused, prioritize your efforts, and maintain perspective. Each phase will have unique challenges and opportunities when it comes to helping your kids grow with healthy habits, sexual integrity, and technological responsibility. That's why we put together conversation guides for every phase. Each guide is a way of scripting the kind of things you should probably talk about with your kid at each phase. Whenever I talk through the conversation guides, I get this one question. What if it's too late? What if I'm hearing this for the first time and my kid's an 11th grader? I tend to say, that's too bad. You've messed this kid up. Maybe just have another one and start over. I'm just kidding. You can always start at any point. The point of the map isn't where you start, it's where you're headed. You have to start where you are. And there are two more things to remember as you have important conversations in your home. Every kid is unique, and life is unpredictable. There has never been another child like yours. So the conversations you have with your kid will also be one of a kind, and that's okay. You're probably the best judge of what your kid needs to hear and when they need to hear it. And life really is unpredictable. As parents, we simply cannot control the choices our kids make or the things that happen to or around our children. That's why a life map isn't a step-by-step guide to guarantee your child will turn out a certain way or have a specific outcome. It's just a way of reorienting your parenting every year to talk about the things that matter in a way that moves your kid toward a better future. You might think about it this way. If you keep the end in mind and you know where you are now, you can always do something that will lead a kid in a better direction.